Muted. Hello everyone and welcome back to PSGL for the Crossplay Cup here for round 2. Sorry about the delayed start. We had some issues with the lobby settings. I couldn't actually get in, but we're all sorted now. Today, joining me in the comms box is Jake. So welcome in, Jake.
Yeah, hello. Really excited to be here, and yeah, caught some of the action last week. It looked to be very exciting, a lot of fun, and hoping for more of the same. At certainly one of the favourite tracks that of the fans, I would say.
Indeed, yeah, COTA. It always brings great racing. Even when it was wet, even in this game, and it also brings lots of love from the fans. It seems to be like not as hostile as some fan experiences like Austria and Silverstone. Everyone seems to be more friendly here, which helps with the drivers as well. So it adds that nice experience and that nice atmosphere for the drivers and the fans watching. Of course, you in the audience. So yeah, it should be a good one. But if you want to talk through the standings, we'll have a little look.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week it was absolutely dominated by one driver and one driver alone, and that was Otis Lawrence, who had a superb evening's work, taking pole position, the sprint race win, and the race win. So he's got a comfortable lead at the moment, ahead of TF Legend, the first of the PS drivers. Then you've got WR Smokey in third place at the moment, the second of the Xbox drivers. And you've got Rudy and Jensen. Finn in sixth place. You've then got Skyver in seventh, and you got Ugiano, who unfortunately crashed out the final lap last week of the main race in Australia. Black Box and Jack completing the top 10. But Otis Lawrence, the outstanding driver last week, and it'd be interesting to see if anyone can take the fight to him this time.
Indeed, as we're into the lap now. And who should we view this time?
I would say let's give Legend a try.
We'll give Legend a try. Legend now coming up towards turn 1 now in the AlphaTauri. Looking to possibly take pole, currently second. Otis Lawrence first, of course, as normal. Legend now in P4. He's just coming through into the S's section now. A difficult part to get right. So let's see what he's able to do here. As you can see, he's left, right, left, right, left, right. And he's able to get the car pretty, the rotation pretty good. Now into the final part of sector 1. Turns 8, 9 and 10. Then we'll be charging down towards turn 11. Very difficult hairpin. You've got to try and get this corner right. Otherwise, you're going to end up going straight on into the wall. And you can see to turn 11, takes the apex, nice and early on the power. That is exactly what he wants. We're going to get telemetry up as well, so we can have a look. And we'll get into gear 8 now, as he charges down towards turn 12. Obviously, where we saw Fernando Alonso take flight in COTA recently. Into turn 12 now, hops the curb completely, and luckily it doesn't spin out now. He'll be heading into sector 2, a very difficult part, and obviously you've got to do the late apex, and you can see there, doesn't touch the apex on the entry, but on the entry to turn 15 he does. Now he's through 16, 17 and 18. Obviously where we saw Magnussen and Vettel fight recently as well. Very nice part of the track. Very, very nice if you can get the flow correct. Into 19 now, and into the final corner, which I believe was named to the Andretti corner, I think it was. Turn 20. Let's see what time we can put on the board. It'll be P2 by the looks of it. 32.7. So, very nice there, wasn't it?
Pretty much pole there. Yeah, he was pretty much looking on course for pole position there, right up until the last sort of 3-4 corners. And then Otis Lawrence just pulled out a superb final part of the lap to grab pole by 2 tenths, which didn't look likely earlier on in that lap. But a couple of surprises there, chief among which is probably Smokey down in P5. Him and Lawrence were the standout qualifiers last week, so Smokey probably a little bit lower than he wanted to be.
We can see at the back we have Trust Mubarak, who 1.2 seconds off, so that's definitely not what he wanted. He's on the PS side, and also Jack and Finn. Finn looks like he crashed out, and Jack got a DSQ, so that would have been because he went too wide. So that's a shame for those two. Starting at the back of the grid for the sprint race, but it's definitely all to earn back in the sprint, isn't it? For many drivers.
Yeah, absolutely, and I would say that's not bad going. Only a couple of drivers invalidating their lap times, because that is one of the tracks I would say it's more easier to do so, particularly in one-shot qualifying when you've only got one attempt at your lap, and you want to push, but at the same time you want to make sure you get a good qualifying position. It's getting that compromise right, and Otis is going to be leading the way into turn 1 for 10 laps of a sprint. No one's been able to lay a glove on him so far, but he's got a different competitor alongside him on the front row this time in Legend. Clear skies ahead. We didn't have that for the full race in Australia last week, but at the moment at least, the rain seems to be staying away, which should hopefully be a good thing for the action we're going to see.
Definitely. You know, the rain, as much as we like to see the rain, it doesn't really bring much action, does it? In terms of the racing, people aren't going to be as aggressive in the wet because it's a lot harder to recover if you spin on the wet or if you have a collision with someone on the wet than it would be on the dry. Because first of all, you don't have DRS. DRS is one of probably the main things that creates overtaking. Without it, then people really do struggle, especially when people haven't got the best setups when it comes to straight line speed. If you got more downforce, you're not going to catch up to them on the straight no matter what. So if you want to take it away, Jake, as we get ready for the sprint race.
Yep, so we've got Otis on the right, Legend on the left, 5 lights, line wait for the drivers here at the Circuit of the Americas, and away we go. Looks like a pretty even start between the front pair, with Otis going to go and try and cover off Legend, who's got the inside into turn 1, and it looks like Legend might have a better line. There's a bit of wheel-to-wheel rubbing as Otis is forced wide, and that should give Legend the lead as we go through the S's section for the first time, and it's Ian up to third ahead of Jensen. Looks like it's a relatively clean start across the field, but it's a crucial move for Legend to grab the lead off Otis and give him his first real big test of this championship so far, as Smokey and Skyver battling further behind. But what a key move for Legend, and he really got his elbows out at that start.
He did. He really got his elbows out. A bit like what Carlos Sainz tried to do in COTA, but obviously got spun around by Mercedes this time. The Mercedes is the one that went off the track. Otis obviously pushing, looks like he pushed Legend a little bit too close to the inside line, but obviously he had to back out and he went off track, so at least he avoided the collision, which is the best thing he could do actually. We got Otis fighting, we're about to fight Legend then towards turn 12, and Jensen gets past Ian into turn 12. Ian being pushed down to P4, but he's still looking to get past Jensen. He's got lots of pace in that. Aston Martin, you can see trying to go around the outside. He's going to get a better line up the inside, but just can't get past. And then behind, we have a Ferrari who wants to get involved. That is Rudy, who did pretty well last race, but I don't think the results really showed of what kind of pace he had. And then further back, Trust and Wilson fighting for P15. And we're going to still keep on board with Ian, seeing if he's able to get a move down in towards turn 1. He's only 4 tenths behind, and he seems to have lots of pace, but he seems to lose it all completely going down that straight.
Yeah, and there was action wherever you look on that opening lap. Saw a real dive down the inside into turn 11 by Frankie on Smokey and Skyvo, which didn't quite work out in the end, and it was lucky to avoid from wing damage for a few of the drivers involved in that. Action wherever you look in the top 2, just trying to pull a little bit of a gap away to Jensen in 3rd place. And it's nicely done from Legend. He's got the lead, but Otis is not going anywhere, and you guess he's going to have some defending to do before these 10 laps are over. And Smokey as well, down 1 place from where he started in P6. Not what he would have wanted, but he's not under immediate threat from behind. And it looks like that for the back, Sav had some issues. He's actually just gone for another spin again. He's unfortunately kind of ruled himself out of the sprint race with some early contact, I suspect.
And that is 2D getting past Schumacher in towards turn 12. Very nice from 2D. He had way more top speed. Nothing Schumacher could do at all. So I'm going to just let him go. We thought, let him go. There's no point trying to defend it. He's got too much straight line speed. I was watching Jensen, actually. Coming through turn 16, 17, he was about a second and a half nearly behind Otis. And during that lap, he managed to claw it back to around 6/10. So Jensen has got lots of pace. Rudy's got past Ian. I didn't see that one happen. So Ian's now down to P5, which is a shame for him indeed, as he started, was it P3? I think it was, wasn't it? P3. And then Jack and Wilson still fighting further back, but Schumacher under pressure from Steph now, coming out of turn 20. Schumacher's currently P10. So yeah, you definitely don't want to lose any more positions, because he's already lost one to 2D. And Frankie, as well, going to mention him, he I think qualified quite high back in the qualified by quite high in Australia, but due to some connection issues, I don't think he actually completed any laps. As himself, it was all AI, so we'll be able to see what he can actually do today. He's Terry's currently P8, so that'll be 1 point going to Frankie and Terry and PlayStation.
Yeah, and I just wonder here, coming out of turn 11, is Otis going to be close enough to round to challenge for the race lead on Legend? It looks like he got a decent exit, not the best exit, but he may have enough speed here with DRS and his battery usage to make a move into turn 12. I don't think he's going to be close enough when he gets there. He thinks about the lunge, but Ben backs out of it. Rudy's got past Ian for P4. I think that was on a previous lap. And a couple of really good starts to notice. Steph makes a dive against Schumacher, but can't quite make it stick. I was going to mention 2D and Steph, both up 6 places from where they started, which is pretty good going in this calibre of field.
Yeah, indeed. But due to the, I don't know if that was due to a move from Schumacher possibly, but 2D's now 1.1 seconds behind Frankie, so I don't know if he had any pressure going into turn 12. But the last thing he wants is to be out that 1 second gap, because, yeah, again, like track similar to Monza and Imola, you need to be in that DRS train, otherwise you're ruined, because you know the DRS is so effective, especially going down towards turn 12. The DRS works wonders. I was just about to say then, Otis got about a 10th behind Legend, so he's right behind, but he's sticking back for now, knowing that's probably the clever idea. Obviously, he might either makes moves later in the race, or he's going to probably try it down the stretch towards turn 12. You know, it's a lot easier, and there's less likely to have a bit of a collision. But Steph, right on the back of Schumacher. Schumacher seems to not have that raw pace, unless it's Sudi in front holding him up, that, you know, that they really need. So this is helping Steph as he's able to get a little bit closer every lap to the back of Schumacher, but just can't get past. It's a very difficult track to overtake. Even, you know, even if you have mega pace, you still struggle to overtake people because the DRS works wonders. And obviously, during sector 1, it's pretty impossible to overtake in the S's. You know, people have done it, but it's, you know, it's nearly impossible. Then obviously you got sector 3, which then again is hard, and people don't really take that risk. But I'll go on board with Steph again and gets closer to Schumacher, but still can't make a move. Schumacher, yet again, getting closer to 2D, and 2D, that gap's starting to increase now. 1.6 seconds to Frankie. It was about 1.1 at the beginning of this lap.
Yeah, now the gap is absolutely crucial because, of course, only the top 8 score points in the sprint race, so effectively it's the top 8 that are currently in the points and looking pretty secure in it as well with that gap to 2D behind. So 2D needs to try and pull something out of the bag to reduce the pressure from behind and also try and get within the DRS window of a final point scorer for this opening race of the evening. Otis Lawrence continuing to hound the back of Legend, but you get the feeling here he's just playing it very patient, very calm, and maybe trying to force Legend into a little error or just biding his time, waiting to make the move later on. They're both quite similar on the amount of battery they've got left to use, so it's like a game of chess at the moment between the front two, and Jensen's just trying to cling on to that DRS as a form of defense, really, more than attack.
Yeah, indeed. Jensen just outside that 1 second, which is really crucial for him. We'll go on board with him now and just see if he does get the DRS, and I don't think he will. 1.2 seconds. That isn't good for him. That gives Rudy and Ian and Smokey a very good chance to try and get past him either this lap or next lap, because he's not going to get DRS, of course. Rudy's going to have DRS. We'll have a look. Is Rudy going to go for an overtake? I won't see why not. And we'll see. Going down towards turn 12. Does Rudy go to move? He's going to get closer and closer, but sticks behind.
Otis.
Legend and Otis fighting.
Yeah, and that was a bit of payback for lap 1, I suspect. Otis running Legend out of room on the exit of turn 12, of turn 11. Sorry, yeah, 12 rather. And yeah, that was utter revenge for the start of the race. Otis was actually behind going to the braking zone, but was very daring on the brakes. And it was a fair move, but he made sure that Legend didn't have any room to attack him on the exit of the corner. And Otis takes the lead of the race. It was a good attempt from Legend to hold off a Mercedes, but it's going to take something special to stop Otis tonight once again, you feel.
It really will. You know, he's already got that gap to 8 tenths. It was 9 tenths before we started this lap, but yeah, Otis definitely looking for a bit of payback from lap 1 into turn 1, where Legend seemingly pushed him off track, and Otis seemed to pay the favour in turn 12. But that's not good for Legend, though, because you can see Otis has got more raw pace. He's able to kind of unleash the car now. Good thing is, it's helping Jensen. Jensen's clawed back that time for about 1.6 seconds to 1.2. So I don't believe he'll get a DRS this time around, but maybe after a couple of laps he'll be able to join back into that train, because the last thing he wants is Rudy and Ian on his back, because then he's really got to defend. The more you defend, you've got to take worse lines, and then obviously, you know, you'll just start losing time to the front too. Sav gets a penalty for multiple warnings. It doesn't really matter. He's 22 seconds behind in P20. But let's see, is Legend going to try and make a move on Otis? I don't think he would at this point, but we'll see. He's crawling into it 7/10, and he just doesn't seem to gain that much. He's gained, what, 2.5 tenths in that straight?
Rudy down the inside of Jensen. He pretty much drained his entire battery usage there to do the move, but he pulled it off. A great move into turn 12, and Rudy now up to P3. Jensen's spirited defense of that position comes to an end, and it was all about trying to stay within that 1 second window of a car in front, and he just couldn't manage it, and that was always going to leave him vulnerable to attack from behind. But it could be flipped around next lap, because I can't see Rudy getting within 1 second of Legend either. So this battle is far from over, and Jensen may have an opportunity to come back at Rudy pretty soon.
Indeed, we've got a spin. I think that was Wilson spun at turn 12. Also had another spin. That's
2D.
2D. He's spun, and looks like he's spun at the exit of turn 19. That's a very odd pace to spin. But 2D's managed it, and he's now P17 with his teammate just behind. Red Bull, 17th and 18th. Definitely not the start they wanted at all. You know, pretty harsh for those. But at the moment, in the top 8, the only drivers... the only teams that have both drivers in the top 8 are AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. Which is very nice for those, isn't it? Obviously, Aston 5th and 6th, and then AlphaTauri are 2nd and 8th.
And things might be about to get a little bit nicer for Aston Martin, because look how close Ian is to the back of Jensen, with a much better exit as well out of turn 11. And even with Jensen having DRS himself, he's going to be under huge threat here down the straight. He can't quite get alongside, but is he going to be brave enough on the brakes to make a move? No, he's not. In fact, his teammate Smokey had a little bit of a look into turn 12 on his teammate. They're right behind Jensen, and he's just struggling at the moment. He's lost one position. He's struggling to get out of that spiral of losing positions. He's still within the second of Rudy though, which is probably what saved him from losing a couple more positions that time around.
Yeah, definitely. Aston Martin obviously trying to work together, I believe, to try and get past Jensen safely, because you could see Smokey looked like he was going to put a wheel up the inside of Ian as well. And then the last thing you want is 3 cars going into one corner together. Especially turn 12, that's not going to end well. And obviously, last thing they want is it for be teammates who are going in side by side. So, yeah, they need to work together, get past him strategically without losing too much time, which I think they can do, because you can just see Jensen's just not got that raw pace in the corners or on the straights. He's just not got it. Obviously, Ian was just alongside, but obviously Jensen would have used a little bit more ERS, managed to pull that gap to around a 10th, meaning Ian would have been a little bit too far back to make a move into turn 12. But Jensen nearly a second behind Rudy, which is crucial. Rudy's managed to claw back about 2 tenths on Legend, but it's not really going to do much. But now this is a critical moment of this lap 8. Will Ian get past Jensen, and will Smokey also take that invitation and get past Jensen? We'll see now as they begin to charge up towards turn 12. Last time Jensen and Ian made a little bit of contact, but luckily nothing too harsh. And we'll go on board with Ian. Is he close enough to make a move? No, he's not. Nowhere near this time. So the tables have turned. Last time he was about 10th, this time 6 tenths.
Yeah, and that's kind of Aston Martin's charge for at least for the moment brought to an end. Ian wasn't actually here last week. He's filling in for somebody for the second week. So it's good to see him, and he's clearly an incredibly talented driver, and showing his probably slightly higher reputation teammate up a little bit tonight, just in front of him. And Smokey might be thinking he could probably do a better job maybe attacking if he was in front, but nothing doing as of yet, as we're just coming on to the penultimate lap of this sprint race. And fair play to Legend, he's still keeping Otis under a bit of pressure here, and he's not out of this fight for the win just yet. He's kept with Otis well when it looked like he was going to potentially drop out that 1 second window.
Indeed, yeah. Legend really managed to just stick behind for now. Obviously, the DRS is the reason why he's so close, but he's got that pace to keep up in the corners. Obviously, you know, between turns 2 and turns 10, 11, he'll have no DRS, so at least he can keep within that 1 second there. You know, that's key. And then he can just claw it back in then. The gap he's lost in sector 1, he claws back then towards turn 12. So he's able to just stick around that 6, 7 tenth gap, which is pretty crucial to possibly think about making a move on lap 10. You know, I wouldn't put it past Legend to not make a move. You think he'd at least try. You know, he's not going to lose anything if he just tries to gain a little bit more time and get past Otis into the final lap, because they've both got the pace. Otis has got more raw pace, but Legend's a lot better at, I think, attacking and defending. You know, he's able to kind of push Otis a bit more to his limits than what Otis is able to do. But you look at Rudy, he's now what? 2 seconds, sorry, behind Legend. So he's lost a lot of pace. And then Jensen is still 8 tenths behind Rudy, so he's still got the DRS, meaning it's impossible for Ian and Smoker to get past anytime soon. So Aston Martin had a nice glimmer of hope of getting themselves into P4 and P5, but unfortunately, for now at least, that hope has gone completely. I was watching Trust, Mobrak and Amin fight earlier, but unfortunately we saw no move made. But we'll go on to the final lap, and we've had a spin up. That is... who's that? That's Jack. He's spun then at turn 19. No, sorry, the exit at turn 18. And Legend, look at him clawing on for his life now to that DRS. 9 tenths, just over a second now. He's really got to try and pull it back in before he gets down towards turn 11. Because the detection zone, he's on the way into turn 11, I think. And he's 1.1 seconds. Otis is going to push like hard now because he knows he needs to get Legend out that DRS. Ian gets a 3-second time penalty, which will push him out of... might push him actually out of the... P8, so we'll have no points, which also might promote Schumacher into P8. But yeah, I don't think we'll actually see a move from Legend. He's 1.2 seconds behind Otis now, and he can't do anything, can he? He's got absolutely nothing left in the tank.
I mean, that's incredible from Otis. Where most drivers in that position under that amount of pressure would crumble, he's just managed to find a bit of extra speed and just pull away to remove any threat to his race victory. That really is incredible driving from Otis, and it's going to earn him, you would think, the sprint race win when it looks like Legend may have had an opportunity on his final lap. That penalty for Ian is really damaging for his race, but if I look at the split times, he's going to be either 7th or 8th. It's very close between Frankie. Oh, as I think Skyver had a bit of a look at Smokey into turn 15 and 16, but nothing doing there. But yeah, it's going to be pretty close for Ian whether he gets the win or not.
But yeah, looking at Otis now, coming up towards the line, and he wins the sprint race. Takes P1, followed by Legend and Rudy. And Jensen has lost it at turn 20. He's lost it completely. That is the last thing that Jensen wanted, and interrupts completely what I was going to say. I was going to say Legend P2, followed by Rudy, takes third, but Jensen dropping down to 8th position. That's the last thing he wanted.
Well, and I can confirm as well that Jensen was punted by Ian at turn 20, so I think there'll be quite an angry man inside that Alfa Romeo helmet. It's cost him a lot of positions. He gets 8th place, but that will feel like very little consolation right now, and he will feel like he's not to blame for what happened there. So really unfortunate for Jensen. But yeah, you can't say anything more than Otis. What a sensational job. You think about a lap before the end of that race, he was only just, it was around 9 tenths clear of Legend. He pulled a second pretty much on that final lap. That is just, that's the drive of a true champion.
Definitely. Definitely. Otis, you know, he's definitely got those esports vibes right there. And, you know, he took the pole by 2 tenths. He's won by 2 seconds in a 10-lap race. If he can win by 2 seconds in 10 laps, what can he do in 20, 30 laps? Because I'm not quite sure how long this race is. I think it's around, isn't it 20, 28, 29 laps for the full race?
Yeah, 28 laps, and hopefully, unlike last week, we'll have a dry race. Not too much rain, but yeah, it sort of looked like that race was petering out slightly at the end there, but some real late drama involving Jensen and Ian, and we haven't seen the stewards have to investigate any collisions as of yet in this Crossplay Cup, but that may be the first time.
Indeed, yeah. Obviously, our main aim isn't just about looking at Xbox versus PS, but I'm going to mention it. Xbox only got 3 of their drivers in the top 8, whereas PS got 5, with 2 of them being on the podium there. So Xbox not seem to have that ultimate pace in qualifying in the sprint race compared to PlayStation. So that could take a twist in the tail, because obviously, you know, we're all here just for the drivers, but we want to see what's going on with the PS versus Xbox. That's, you know, it's the main part of this cup, you know, 10 on each side, I think it is. So, you know, it's definitely a big factor in, it's wet. I'm not going to comment on it being wet, but yeah, it's wet. What do you think of that, Jake?
It is literally carbon copy of Australia last week, but
Indeed.
we had a dry sprint and then a wet race. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays with things, because usually you see a few drivers struggle more in the wet, and maybe a few
Yeah.
drivers prefer those wet conditions. So I think we'll see a bit more variance in terms of where drivers are in this race compared to what we saw in the sprint. But
Yeah.
yeah, 28 laps of a pretty wet Austin. We'll see, of course, if it dries up later on,
Definitely.
and what happens with the weather. But yeah, it should be interesting. And back to your point about the PS versus Xbox debate, it'd be very interesting after the conclusion of this 5-week championship, just to see how many points each platform
Indeed.
got. I suspect, because you've got a lot of the Xbox drivers probably towards the top, but you'd say
Yeah.
probably PS have a few more point scorers. I
Mhm.
think it'd be very, very close.
It will. Definitely will. You know, it will be nearly neck and neck, I think, after the 5 rounds. One quick thing, if anyone in the chat is engineering the drivers, or if any of the drivers are in the chat, just let us know in the chat. Is it meant to dry? Is it going to say wet? Is it going to get wetter? Just so we can have a bit more of an insight of what to expect. Because if it does dry up, we could be talking about what's going to happen if it stays wet. But if it dries, then obviously we'll be able to talk about possible pit stops when it gets dry, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But we have about 8 seconds to go, 5 seconds to go before we begin the race here in Austin, the 50% race, the proper race. And Tommen says yes, it will dry up. Perfect. As now we can see all the cars on the line: 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it is lights out and race on in Austin. And Otis gets a really good stop. But Jensen, this time, not able to get up the inside. Otis knows what Jensen was going to do. Jensen has to go around the outside, shoot it up the inside into turn 1. And Jensen, oh, exactly carbon copy of last time. Otis manages to go off the track and keep the lead. With Legend down to push down to P2. Rudy fighting Smokey. Smokey, absolutely amazing start. Battles for the back, we've got Steph and Nick fighting. We've also got another message off the track that was Trust Mabarak. Ian down in P10, fighting with Kryptonite. And Kryptonite now down to P12. Kryptonite's spun. I don't know who he spun with, but he spun with someone, I think. Look back at the top, and Schumacher into P7. Started P9. He's moved up 2 positions. And Nick also, he's had a pretty good start as well. I didn't see where he qualified, but he's done well. What an opening first few corners.
Thought it would be dramatic, and again, Legend trying to take the fight to Otis. A very late move up the inside, and once again, more wheel banging, but this time Otis had found a bit more grip off the track, as we see some very aggressive defending further behind from Schumacher against PSR Nick, and it's led to them going side by side through turn 12, but Schumacher
Alfa Romeos,
but there's more contact.
Yep, the Alfa Romeo, sorry to cut you off there. Yeah, now up went for a move on Ian, but hit Jensen. Now up sent off by the Haas, and he gets spun around by the Red Bull. It's all kicking off here in sector 2 with the Alfa Romeos. Now up now down to P13. We've also got, I think it's Sav right at the back of Amin. Jensen being overtaken by Ian. These two got a bit close in turn 20 last time. Let's hope the same doesn't happen again. But we can see now, this time, Jensen behind Ian, going into turn 20. Is Jensen going to send it? No, he's not. He's going to play clever and stick just behind. So that's Ian into P10, Jensen down to P11. 2D being overtaken by Jack, I think it was, coming out to the final corner. And then Trust Mabarak in the pit lane, so I think he might have been the one who collided with Kryptonite. I'm not quite sure. Nick and Schumacher fighting, Skyther and Frankie fighting, going down in towards the S's. Skyther backing out, knows that's the safest thing to do. Amin and Sav fighting down towards turn 2. So everyone's fighting here, really sticking their elbows out. No one is waiting around at all. Everyone wants to get these early positions in, knowing it'll dry up. Caesar says in the chat, it stays cloudy in the 4th slot and then dry until the end. So halfway, we'll start to see the track drying up. Possibly then see some pit stops, and then that's where it gets crucial on the strategy. That's what's going to make, that could be what makes someone winner and loser in this race, the strategy.
Yeah, definitely pitting at the right time. And of course, drivers knowing there will be no DRS for roughly half of this race, so that's probably led to them being a bit more punchy than normal, and trying to get their elbows out and get those positions while they can, because eventually there'll be a little bit of field spread and it'll become harder to overtake, as Nick and Schumacher going at it again into turn 12. Schumacher very late on the brakes in the Haas, managing to stay in front for now, but he senses that battle's far from over.
Yeah.
Ian and Jensen still close on track, but fair to say neither of them have had a particularly strong start. Both lost 3 places from their grid spots, so disappointing starts for a pair of them. And a little shout out to PSR Wilson, who has gained 7 off the start.
Very nice from Wilson. So that means he would have been P20 then, wouldn't it? Or P19, one of the two. And he's up to P12. Pretty nice indeed. Yeah, we had another little battle between Schumacher and Nick. Schumacher obviously got past Nick. Nick tried pressuring Schumacher in towards his turn 15, but ended up going a bit too wide, not able to make the move. And then we've got Schumacher and Skyler fighting. Schumacher seems to be very good in his wet conditions. In the dry, he wasn't too much on the pace, but you can see now he started P9, he's moved up to P7, and he's looking to possibly take P6, possibly in a couple of laps, because he's around 5, 6 tenths behind Schumacher. Behind Skyler, sorry. And Sky, that 6 tenths behind Frankie, so you can see everyone's closing in. The top 3 are very far away, but then 5th to around, 14th are all bunched up together in one little group. Well, one big group. Which I suppose you could say there's definitely some pros and definitely some cons of that. Meaning, first of all, it's going to be horrible being in a train the whole time because you actually get nothing done. But at least everyone's together, not spread out. Ian, bit of a snap on the exit turn 10, but luckily corrects it. It's only a little snap, but you know, it's definitely something you don't want in the wet. Ian gaining on Steph. Couldn't be P10 Ian, so another driver that seems pretty quick in these wet conditions. And obviously he started P7, moved into P10 on the first lap, so that could have been due to a bit of contact on then at turn 1 on that one with Jensen, but they are now fighting.
Legend's made us gone deep into 12, sorry to cut you off, but Legend deep into 12, and that's allowed Smokey to take P2. He was just starting to lose touch with Otis up front, and now it's an Xbox 1-2, but look at that dive! Back on the Aston Martin, that's brave. And they continue to go side by side. This is Vettel, Magnus and Esk. I almost wish Legend was in a Haas car rather than Alpha Tauri for this. Otherwise it would be literally the same. And Legend holds on to P2, and my oh my, he was not prepared to give that one up.
He was not. What a clean battle from those two. Bravo to Legend and Smokey. Like you said, yeah, Magnussen versus Vettel, that was. Absolutely amazing, those two battling. You know, that's showing pure skill, pure racecraft, and, you know, pure sportsmanship, knowing to give each other just enough space, but not too much space, as that's pretty vital. We look actually back at Ian, who's going for a move up on Steph into turn 1. Ian goes a bit deep, that lets Steph get the switch back on the exit of turn 1. Now pushing to turn 2. Ian's going to try and stick his on at the inside, nearly spins Steph round there. That would have definitely been a cold brain for Steph coming out of turn 2, but luckily recovers and stays in that P9 position just ahead of Ian. Ian's really wanting that P9.
Lovely bit of car control there from Steph when he got the contact just to keep the car pointing in the right direction. Otis, oh no.
That's not good.
Has disconnected. That's awful. That's awful news. He was comfortably leading the race, and I'm hoping he can join back into the lobby as quickly as possible. But well, this may give his competition a little bit of a glimmer of hope here, and a chance to get the lead off him, even if it is a little bit unfair, unfortunately. But yeah, this isn't a chance for a few of us other drivers, and Legend not under as much pressure from Smokey now after that great battle they had just about a lap ago. There's more battles going on down the field as Wilson makes a move on Jensen up into P11, so Wilson continuing that fine start he had.
Yeah, very nice there. Otis is back in, but that's put Legend into DRS. I mean, sorry, no, we haven't got DRS, has he? Put it until 1 second at least. 6.5 tenths there, so that's helped Legend a lot. That's unfortunate for Otis. Obviously, we can tell he's lagged out because he dropped 1.5 seconds. But now he's going to make all that time back again. But for the next 4 laps, he's going to stretch his lead by another 1.5 seconds. He's still actually out, isn't he? His car's still ghosted, but I think he's back now. Let's see.
I mean, that is nick of time.
It is. You see Legend, 2.5 tenths, 3 tenths, able to get a move. I don't know if it actually is Otis, because Otis seems very slow on the exit there, turn 1. But we'll soon see if it's a real Otis, because he'll just fly away as normal. Frankie just behind Rudy, 6 tenths. Rudy seemed to back off a little bit from Smokey, and Smokey's backed off heavily from Legend. Last, about 2 laps ago, they were side by side. Now they're 8 tenths apart.
Yeah, it's not being the race that Jensen would have wanted down in P12 at the moment. And I'm just keeping an eye on Wilson, see if he can gain any more positions in P11 now. On the verge of a top 10, of course, top 10 score points in this I suppose feature race, if you like. And it is the same point system as real F1.
Yeah.
In this regard, obviously PSGL usually run different point system, but it's it runs in line with real life this time. So it's 25 for the win, down to 1 for 10th place. So more to play for those guys around the top lower end of the top 10. And Wilson is one of those guys, and yeah, Otis must be back in control of his car now because he's gained 4 tenths on Legend.
Yeah, he's complete. Yeah, he's definitely back. 4.5 tenths. And then we'll see that gap increase by another 4 tenths by the end of next lap. But yeah, I'll be honest, I prefer the real F1 system because it makes it less confusing. I'll be honest with you now, I still don't remember the PSGL scoring system. I still have to remember it, go over it every single race before every single string because I seem to forget. It's too confusing because another league I'm in, we have a similar point system, then we have PSGL, then we have real life, and it just gets too confusing, all these numbers. So I'm actually happy we got real F1 points because I know it's a lot easier to remember. Especially when it comes to the top 5, because that always confuses me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's can sometimes be difficult to remember in all those different point systems. And if you needed any confirmation that Otis was back, even more so, fastest lap of the race just comes in from him. Gap over a second now. Gap feels pretty well spread out. I would say the driver that looks most likely to make a move at this current moment is probably Ian, in terms of the gap, and also just in terms of the fact that Ian has been pretty punchy so far this evening. So I don't think he's the kind of driver that's going to want to hang around, but so far not able to do anything about Steph just yet, who in turn is on the back of Nick. And I think most of these drivers now will be in their rhythm and just looking up to the heavens to see when the clouds will separate and we'll get some dry running in, because it shouldn't be too far away now.
No, it shouldn't be too far away. Hopefully in another, 12 laps it'll start to dry up. Obviously, it's going to stop. It's stopped raining now, actually. I think, well, nearly stopped raining anyway. So obviously it won't get dry just yet. But as soon as the rain stops, the track will stop to drop, and then we can start seeing pit stops. As we look at Ian now, being pressured by Wilson into turn 12. Ian having to try and go for the switch back on the outside in towards turn 13. Wilson a bit laggy. Ian backs out, goes for the inside into 14. Is he going to keep it? He's going to hold his line. Ian's still going to fight back. Wilson pushes him wide into 15 now. Ian's going to go for the switch back on the exit, but that time doesn't have the grip to pull himself past Wilson. Has to commit that move from Wilson. Pretty nice. And now Ian's down in P11. I mean, he's got to try and get past Wilson again, because last lap we were saying that Ian would be the most likely person to get a move. But he's, at the moment, the only person that's really been overtaken recently.
Yeah,
someone off. That is
someone
off. It was Jack. Straight at turn 20 into the board.
Yeah, either a bit of loss of a rear of the car or the weirdest team orders I've ever seen. But either way, Jack loses a position to his teammate Sav, who is having a better race in this one compared to what he had in the last race, where of course he had that early pit stop, I'm guessing due to damage. So it's good to see him having a much cleaner run of things this time and up to 14th. And yeah, just I won't say one driver's looking likely to overtake someone again, because as we saw there the first time I say that, he gets overtaken himself. So sorry about that, Ian. Hope you don't watch this back and see the curse I placed on you.
Well, Ian's definitely going to be angry, and also probably going to get himself a penalty, isn't he, because of his incident with Jensen. Obviously I didn't see it, but you saw it. So maybe Ian doesn't need to get passing because he'll lose it anyway. Actually, I'll go with Kryptonite and he overtakes someone. 2 deep, then to P18, Kryptonite up to P17. Kryptonite's been chilling, really. He hasn't really done much, has he? He's just been driving. He's spun around at, I think it was turn 1 or turn 6 or something like that. And then pitted and then just been driving about. But he's got 2D on his back now because he just got past 2D. Into 11. Oh, 2D spins him round. No, he doesn't. He just hits him. Luckily, Kryptonite's able to control the car and doesn't get spun round at turn 12. But Kryptonite will be very angry with that. And considering Kryptonite's one of the top boys, you definitely don't want to be punting into him because he'll give you so many penalty points. Because he has the right to. And 2 deep, still on the back of him, but still can't get past. Kryptonite able to defend very well. And 2D's definition of attacking is more like suicide bombing at this point.
That was what I was wondering up front, as to whether Legend was upping the pace or Smokey had a bit of a problem. It might be a combination of both those things, but Legend has just nipped the fastest lap away as Jack retires in the pit lane by the looks of things. So he's called it a day for this evening. Sadly, our first retirement of the evening. There's a couple of drivers struggling at the back, but they're still going on with the race. So hopefully it pays off for them later on. But yeah, Legend just upping the pace a little bit. He's lost a couple of attempts to this lap to Otis. I almost get the feeling every time Otis sees someone else's name with the fastest lap, he almost gets a red mist and wants to prove a point. So I suspect that may not last too long. especially as the conditions continue to just edge towards slick weather and the lap times come down a bit more.
Yeah, indeed, and we can see now Ian right at the back of Wilson now, 4/10 is Ian to Wilson, and Ian's got a really good exit of turn 11, and let's see, is Wilson able to make a move, Ian able to make a move on Wilson in towards turn 12, I think he will. We've got a spinner down, that's Jack's car retiring, we can see now Ian up the inside, no he doesn't, Wilson seems to move, but Ian sends it late, and that's Wilson nearly round, Ian gets past, bit of a dodgy move there from Ian, but we'll concede it, let it happen for now, and then obviously he might get a penalty or whatever, or told to give it back. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, not the best move from Ian. But up the inside of Wilson, Wilson could have probably given him a bit more space, but it is what it is, and now that's allowed the two Alfa Romeos to get just that little bit closer to him now. So now we've got Jensen and Naywalk getting themselves into that little mix for P10. We've got to think this is just a fight for 1 point. So if Ian and Wilson are fighting like that for 1 point, never mind what they'll be fighting like for 25. Up the top of the field. Wilson nearly a second out from me now, so I don't know if Wilson's got any damage. But Jensen's starting to get a little bit close to 6/10 now. Jensen is still back of Wilson.
Two options really when when you make a move like that. The option is either you give a place back straight away, or you just get on with it and just deal with the consequences afterwards. And Ian going with the latter option on that one, and just trying to scamper down the road and maybe gain some more positions. I mean, if someone comes of it after the race, then so be it. That's his. That's how he's looking at things at the moment. But he has been involved in a couple of scrapes so far today, so he might be just hoping that things get a little bit cleaner from here on out. And
definitely,
just looking at fights down the field or just throughout the field, Frankie maybe just starting to come under a bit of pressure from Skyver. I do apologise if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. That's the best attempt you're going to get at it. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but the McLaren driver right up behind Frankie now for P5, and this could be a fight that we see starting to unfold before us. In fact, both McLarens currently running in the top 10, so a nice job for them at the moment, but one of them looking to gain a further place.
Yep, indeed. Score that just 4 tenths behind Frankie. Frankie seemed to lost a lot of time at the back of Rudy now. 2 seconds is the gap between those. And then after that, the biggest gap in terms of, the biggest gap that hasn't involved an incident is that you notice 2.4 seconds. Also, I could say, well, Trusty's 19 seconds back, but he's pitted already. So, it doesn't really count in terms of how far people are back just on pure pace. So yeah, Otis really stretching that lead. And you can see Legend brings it back in by 5 tenths, and then Otis just stretches it back out. He's like, well, I'll start pushing for this lap, then in closing, I don't think he's got something. Then I'll just be like, nah, you know what, let's just push. And then gets another 5 tenths off him. Now he's 2.7 seconds ahead, nearly 2.8. Finn's retired, I think that's in the pit lane. Along with, I think, Toodie's... Is Toodie going to retire? I don't know if he is. No, I can't tell. Don't think he has. No, he's going to stay in the race. But we look at Skyder now, right on the back of Frankie. He's got lots of pace. Frankie's tyres seem to be dying completely nearly. And it's drying up. The track's drying. This is going to be when people start thinking, do we pit for what do we call it? Slicks. Is Toodie on slicks? I think he is, isn't he? Toodie, he's on slicks.
As is Trust Mobarak.
So
now
now
there's a couple of drivers trying the hard tyres and not even just the slicks, the hards, which are difficult to warm up at the best of times. So it could be a bit of a tricky one on this Ryan track. Amin is onto mediums. Ooh. As Skyver goes up inside of Frankie and there is contact into turn 12. He gets past. It's a bit of a carbon copy of a Wilson Ian overtake. The difference here is that Skyver lets him back through, so he chooses the other option on that regard, and he did very well actually to let Frankie through and not lose another place to Schumacher.
Schumacher's gained them 2.5 tenths in Schumacher. That's helped him gain a little bit closer. That's Skyver. Then the question is, when do people pit? Because is Otis pitting? Yes, he is. Is Legend? Yeah. Is Smokey? Yeah. Rudy is. I think everyone will at this point. Let's just have a little look though. The one McLaren stay out. Oh, Schumacher stays out. Bit straight from Schumacher there. Nick's out. I think everyone else is going to come in, aren't they? Apart from a couple who's got teammates out. So that's really going to harm Schumacher. Fight with Nick going in towards turn 1. Nick gets past Schumacher. That's Nick into P1. Schumacher down to P2. Schumacher's going to fight back up the inside. Completely look at him move there. Oh, and they connect. And they're off in the wall. Schumacher and Nick in the wall. Nick gets away unscathed, but Schumacher has a big incident there. Also has to reset to track and has got no front wing. Well, it's lost a bit of it anyway.
Yeah, you almost get the feeling that Schumacher thought he'd made the move on Nick and was a car length in front, but Nick was still on the outside and he just didn't see him and the contact was made. Neither of them wanted to bail out, and that unfortunately resulted in the contact. Just looking at the drivers that have just pitted, the majority of the front runners going for the mediums, at the exception of Otis on the hards. So it could be interesting to see how that different tyre strategy pays off. Otis going for the more durable compound, but will Legend and Smokey on those quicker mediums be able to put him under some pressure?
Yep, indeed, and we can see Nick just behind Sav now, and I think Otis is the first of the runners on slicks, isn't he? Legend's on the mediums, Otis on the hard, and the three in front are all still on inters, and they've really messed up, haven't they? By having to pit a little bit later due to their teammates being in the way. Nick gets out the way of Otis because he's a lot slower, so there's no point in bothering to defend that move. Legend taking the medium option. We'll actually have a look at the tyres on the detail. Let's have a look here. So we got hard for Otis, followed by medium for Smokey and Legend, medium for Frankie, hard for Sky that, medium for Rudy, hard for Steph, medium for Jensen, medium for Amin, and then hard for everyone else. Nick, Sav, and Nay will all pitting now for soft. Has Schumacher stayed out? No, he's not. He's pitting. I thought Schumacher stayed out for an extra lap then. Scared me for a second. But look at Otis's stretch he's got on the gap. 3.4 seconds now. So he's able to stretch it by a good second over Legend. He was 2.5, and it's 2.3. 3.3. And Frankie, 7 seconds behind Smokey. That is a big gap. 7 seconds is enough for you to spin and get back on track without them catching up.
Yeah, the margins, there's really been some gaps pulled out over this pit stop phase. I just saw Rudy go past Skyver as well into turn 1 to take 5th place away. Rudy on the mediums, so no surprise he's got a pace advantage on those on the hards. Although having said that, Skyver now coming under some pressure from VSR Steph as well, who is also on the hards, so no difference in tyre there. Skyver just looking like he's struggling on this drying track at the moment just to get some pace in. You can see Legend and Smokey starting to eat into that lead of Otis. I guess the real question here is how are those medium tyres going to be at the end of the race? But right now, it has to be said, they look like the quicker tyre. And yeah, Otis's lead has been cut into.
Yeah, definitely. The gap was about 3.5, 3.6, now it's 2.9. So yeah, the medium's definitely seeing like a quicker tyre for now. But the thing is, when it comes to another 16 laps time, the hards are most likely to be quicker, unless they pit again due to safety cars or whatever, or just they all decide to put on the soft or something at the end. It's a different story. But for now, those mediums look like they have the better competitive edge over the hards. But then again, like I said before, what happens at the end of the race is a completely different story and could end very differently for many drivers. Look at Jensen on the back of Sky. The DRS has been enabled finally. We actually can get some overtaking, going down towards turn 1 and down towards turn 12. We've got Sav in the pit lane, so he's might have had a little bit of damage, or he's going to retire, one of the two anyway. So he's back in the pits. What's he pitting onto? Is he pitting onto hard? Yeah, pits onto hards. So now, watching Smokey, who's gaining on Legend, and Legend seem to really pull in Otis now. 2.6 seconds is the gap between those two. He's cut a good second over the last 2 laps, which means, technically, in 6 laps' time, he should be right on his rear wing. We're smoking out. This has got the DRS on Legend coming down towards turn 12. We'll see. Well, we might see a move, do we? I don't think we will. No, look how much farther back he is. But he starts to crawl him in very rapidly. 4 tenths now. The gap was 8 before they went onto that straight. So the DRS definitely helping Smokey. But the gap now between Otis and Legend is 2.5 seconds, so it's starting to decrease even more. But it's not good for Rudy and Frankie because they're about 10 seconds off nearly from the top 3.
Yeah, they really haven't benefited from that pit stop phase. It's for whatever reason, it's just gapped the cars out, and they've been pitted on the same lap, so that shouldn't have been an issue. But they've definitely lost a lot of seconds during that phase. Otis trying his best to push, but Legend taking another 6 tenths out of him on that lap, so they got down to 2.3 seconds now. and it's definitely looking like a three-way fight for this win. And right now, Smokey won't really think about attacking Legend. I think he'll be quite happy seeing that gap reduced to Otis at the front, and he'll just be happy for Legend to just keep dragging him along. The last thing he'd want to do is embroil Legend in a fight and they'll lose touch with the race leader. So I think right now he's playing a good game, as Nick has he retired in the pit lane?
Yes, he has.
He had to replace his wing after that crash with Schumacher, and I just wonder if he's there's still a bit of anger towards that collision, which is ultimately he must have felt ruined his chance of any points in this race.
Yeah, if he's not going to get points, you can't blame him for retiring, really. Currently, well, it doesn't look good for Xbox, does it? Because 3 of the retirees, all the retirees, are all Xbox players. So it definitely doesn't look good for the Xbox crew, does it? Considering we've got, what, 1, 2, 3 of them in the points and 7 PlayStation in the points. PlayStation seems to be definitely in a better position compared to the Xbox. We're looking at Rudy and Frankie fighting towards turn 12, and also we've got Jensen and Sky fighting into turn 12. This time we've got a PS getting past an Xbox, and Scott has a massive snap of overseer there. But luckily manages to keep it straight and doesn't lose too much time to the back of Jensen. But he's now 4/10 back because he's on the hard, so he will be slower, you know, typically. Jensen now will be charging after Steph. Steph's obviously got a 3-second time penalty, which means Jensen's technically already promoted up to P6. Smokey gets fastest lap 36.3. Recently it was a 36.4 from Nywarp, and then before that it was Legend with a 36.5. So the track seems to be evolving quickly, more quickly than ever. Rudy, 10 seconds behind Smokey, and yeah, that gap has really increased, hasn't it, to what it was before.
And they don't seem to have much of an answer now on the slick tyres to the pace of the guys in front, and there's no tyre difference there. It's just outright pace. Rudy and Frankie just don't seem to have that pace. I think Rudy has got past Frankie. I don't know if I saw that or not, but Rudy up to P4 now, but he's still not making that many inroads to the leading group of cars. As Smokey, I think did he have a small mistake there, because he's just lost about half a second to Legend. And more importantly than the half a second he's lost the DRS.
That is important for him. That is not what he wants. He's back within the second, though, for now. I think he must have clawed a bit of DRS going down towards turn 12. He's now 9/10, so it's not ideal, but at least he's in that 1 second. Watching Ian now, on the back of Naywalk going in towards turn 12, thinking he's going to take that invitation to get a move. Naywalk pushes him close. Is Wilson also going to go for it? No, Wilson sticks back. Lets these two battle. Wilson gets pushed off the track by Ian. Not Wilson. Naywalk gets pushed off the track by Ian. Wilson's now going to take that opportunity to go around the inside of Naywalk, sorry, into turn 14. Nearly hits Ian, has to brake a lot more sharp. Naywalk can't get past again, so that's that move done, and that's now Ian into 9th, followed by Wilson, and then Naywalk in P11. So Naywalk's managed to lose 2 positions in the matter of 5 corners, which is not what he wants at all. But now Smokey's back at that side that 1 second again.
Yeah, he had the DRS down the straight, so he must have got the DRS. He must have been within the second of the detection point, ran wide into turn 11, and that's when the mistake came. But in addition to that, he's had a real nightmare lap because he's now picked up a penalty as well. So Smokey having a real scruffy lap, and that 1 lap could really put pay to his hopes of winning this race, or even getting second off Legend. Although there is still plenty of time for those two.
Oh! Big collision there! Wilson completely smashes himself into Naywalk. Don't know if it was done on purpose, but it looked on purpose to me. That's a shame for Naywalk. Could have been a bit of lag from Wilson, but completely pile-drived the side of Naywalk there. That's Naywalk out. Yeah, I don't know if that was either lag or purpose. I don't think he would have done it on purpose, but we don't know. But that'll be a safety car, won't it? Let's see. No, it's not. There's no safety. I think Connor's turned safety car off again because we haven't had a safety car when we should have.
Must not have a safety car enabled. I'm sure he might mention in chat whether it's on or off. Speaking of the top guys at PSGL, look who's just sneaked into the points after that collision.
Yeah,
Kryptonite, who was kind of struggling towards the tail end of the field in the early stages, now finds himself in the points. So, yeah, quietly gone about his business, and now he's in the top 10. So, nice going from him. Smokey's, I don't think he's recovered from that mistake. He's continuing to lose time. The legend, who is still closing on Otis ever so slightly. The gap 1.5 seconds now. I think we had someone recovering from a spin. I think that was Amin at the back.
That was down at turn 15, turn 14, turn 15 that was. I don't know if it was due to a collision with Mobrak or Sav, because Sav's now in the pit lane. He's retired. But we look at Frankie and Rudy fighting now, yet again, down towards turn 11. Obviously, not going to make a move, but might be looking to make one down in towards turn 12. And now, Rudy's starting to gain a bit more time back of Smokey, 8.9 seconds. It was around 10.5 before. So Smokey's losing pace and Rudy's gaining pace, which is not good for one, but it is good for the other.
Absolutely. Ian is right behind Skyver. Is he going to make a move into turn 12? It looks like he's just struggling for a little bit of pace, even with the DRS help. And he's a little bit too far back to have a go in the McLaren just now. So slots in behind P8 and P9 for those two at the moment. Still got the Alpha line set to 1. I think that's a mean going. Sav's retired car just going slowly. And they're going side by side there. And Skyver and Ian battling away. I think Ian must have had a go into turns 14 and 15. But Skyver came back at him and has maintained the position. So once again, Ian getting plenty of airtime tonight. He's involved in many battles. And he's looking to make a move, but that McLaren holding firm, at least for now. But he could come under threat again into turn 1. Look how close the Aston Martin is. Oh, and they collided on the straight, man. It looks to me on my screen. I don't know if you saw that, but...
No, I didn't. I was watching the Hasses down in P11. But Ian,
yeah,
the cut
like...
again. Not good at all.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a bit like... There was a bit of connection issue there or anything, something like that, but it was almost like he just ran into him on the straight. And Skyver has to slot in behind for now, but got again, just a lot of contact between the pair of them. Ian gets P8 though, and there's a few just various battles going on. You've got 2 TF guys battling for P4, 2 VSR guys for P6, and then you've got Ian and Skyver battling away for P8, and keep battling like that. They might have Kryptonite to worry about. Who's just starting to peg that gap back slightly.
Indeed.
At front, it just looks like you mentioned, the medium's good for the first 7 or 8 laps, but it does look like that balance is starting to come back in favour of the hard tyres now.
Indeed.
And Otis just controlling the gap now, just under 2 seconds. Connor's confirmed the safety car's on reduced, so it can happen, but I'm very surprised it didn't happen for that collision, same as what used for the leagues. I would have expected a safety car in that instance.
Yep, same. Well, considering one car, is a Miller track with 3 wheels, I think a safety car was more than necessary, but it seemed the race director of this race must be on some kind of drugs, because he thought, no, it's all right, just let the car, just disappear. So, yep, that was Nate Wolpert's car, got into thin air, and then I think it was Wilson he collided with. Wilson's now down to P12. He was fighting with Schumacher. When you speaking about Ian and Sky there, I was on the screen watching Schumacher and Ian. I mean, Wilson started, so everyone was fighting at the same time. So it was kind of hard to keep swapping between the 2 different battles. But the last time we was here with an Alfa Romeo, it was dead. Luckily, this time it makes it through safely. So, currently, the best teammates on track would be AlphaTauri with a P2 and P5, and Aston Martin with a P3 and a P8. Both of them with penalty stubs, so not too good. And then apart from that, there's not really many other teams that have both drivers in the points at all. One McLaren's out, the other Alpha's out, the other Alpine's out, I think. No, they're in P15. And then, yeah, and the Mercedes is down in P14, so there's not really much going on between those, is there? Down at the back.
Has to definitely the unluckiest team, both of them just outside the points in 11th and 12th. So
yeah, it's unlucky.
Just missing out on the points at the moment. Jensen, I believe, passed Steph a lap or so ago. So Jensen up to P6. He seems to be one of those drivers. Mentioned it, like some drivers preferring wet to dry and some are vice versa. It looks to me like Jensen's a lot happier in these dry conditions as opposed to wet conditions, and he's picking up a few positions here and there. So a nice recovery for the Alfa Romeo driver after an unfortunate end to his sprint race. Now back up to P6. I'd say that's he's doing a pretty solid job there.
Yeah, very good from Jensen. He's really definitely better in these dry conditions than he's in the wet. He's starting to claw in Frankie and Rudy a little bit because obviously these two are battling. So it's going to draw Jensen in just that little bit more. And possibly by the end of the race, we could see a little bit of a battle between those. But at the moment, it seems very unlikely as the gap's 6 seconds. We look down at the bottom. And we look at Kryptonite, Skyler and Ian fighting it again. 7.5 tenths gap between those two this time. No moves will be made just yet, but depending if Skyler can stay in the DRS, which he actually can't at this moment, that could be that battle all done and dusted. But we'll see now. DRS line, did he have? I think he actually might have got it. I think. Well, we'll see as he comes down the straight if his DRS wing opens. Big shot from Ian on the exit there. Well, it was looking from my screen, and then Kryptonite's starting to claw these two in that little bit more. 6.5 seconds now. The gap was about 8, wasn't it? About 3 or 4 laps ago.
Yeah, just gradually making his way up to them. The more they fight, the more that's going to happen. So, but I don't think these two are particularly focused on that, to be honest with you. They're just having their own private little battle and sort of neglecting what could happen around them. Smokey, I just wonder if that penalty and that mistake's kind of taken the wind out of his sails. He doesn't really seem to have much of an answer to the front two's pace anymore. Perhaps knowing that with that penalty, it doesn't really matter what he can do in front of the cars in front of him. And of course, he's not got the motivation of pressure from behind, because even with that penalty, he's still got a comfortable margin to Rudy, who himself is still under a bit of a pressure from Frankie.
Yep, indeed. But we look at on the screen, then Ian got another 3-second time penalty that puts him onto 6 seconds, meaning that Sky that will get the position on Ian at the end of the race, depending if he can stay within the 6 seconds. And then, luckily for him, because Kryptonite's 7 seconds behind, that means Ian will be able to keep at least a P9 for now. Obviously, if Kryptonite can draw in just about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, possibly Ian could then drop down to P10. But that's the last thing Ian wants, and Ian will be pushing. So will Kryptonite, because Kryptonite knows that points, well, more points are possibly on the horizon. Steph, just behind Jensen. These two have been battling a lot, and Jensen really Steph's really gained on Jensen now, coming down towards turn 12. Halfway down the straight this time, the move gets done by Steph, puts his Alpine up into P6, pushes Jensen into P7. But it doesn't really matter because Steph's got a penalty, meaning Jensen can get that position back anyway without needing to make any form of overtake.
Yeah, and after some of the shenanigans late on in the sprint race, Jensen's probably quite happy to just let things happen a lot smoother this time, perhaps not willing to get involved in some wheel-to-wheel action. Happy to let Steph go in front, knowing that that penalty is ultimately going to cost the Alpine that 6th place, as long as Jensen avoids a penalty himself in these closing stages. Although he may get some PTSD if he sees the driver that's behind him in PA.
Yeah, definitely that's possible. But Ian, yeah, like you said before, he's starting to gain in. Is what 2.9 seconds behind now. I think the gap was way bigger than it was before, wasn't it? It was about 5-6 seconds. But key to that is Skyler yet again really, really close to being at that DRS to Ian, which Ian wants. Skyler doesn't, so Skyler's still going to push. You can see the gap's about, 7 tenths, 8 tenths nearly going through sector 1. Skyler just does not have that pace through the S's, and then he claws it back between 8 and 11. So Skyler is really on that thin edge now, where it's nearly the cut-off point for DRS, and as soon as he gets the DRS, well, it kind of allows Kryptonite to gain a little bit more closer. Obviously, the DRS is just pulling them a few tenths on Kryptonite each lap. Without DRS, Kryptonite's going to possibly be able to start getting in, because Kryptonite has got some nice pace on those hard tyres compared to the other two. Skyler doesn't have DRS there. Actually, no, he does. Or does he not? I can't tell. No, he didn't have DRS, but he gained 6 tenths down that whole straight. That's odd. But, okay, it is what it is. Smokey, 3.4 seconds behind Legionnaire, so I think he knows that he's he knows that a P2 or P1 is definitely off the table now, so just stick where we am. Don't push, just make sure that Rudy's too far behind that you don't get took over by him, but just so that you can stay within that in that P3. And speaking of Kryptonite, he's just got a penalty. So the chances of him gaining on Ian and getting past Ian's penalty is very unlikely unless he gets within 3 seconds, sorry. And he's now about 8.5. So yeah, that's my look for Kryptonite gone. Kryptonite I tried, but it seemed to commentate Kershaw. So, yeah, you're not going to have much luck today. Looking back at Jensen out, fighting on the back of Steph. A second, well, just shy of a second of these two. And this is another battle where it's getting very close to them both being outside. Being outside that 1 second gap. Frankie's got a 3-second time penalty, meaning that now Rudy's clear of P4, which is definitely what Rudy wants. But the issue with that is Jensen now is on to gain closer on Steph. If Jensen can get past Steph and possibly start gaining on Frankie, then that will put Jensen into P5. So, yeah, it's definitely something Frankie doesn't want. You know, it's going to put him, 5 seconds behind Rudy. That's only a couple of seconds behind Steph, speaking of that. And Trust My Brat gets a penalty.
And that penalty for Kryptonite could have more damage than we first realised, because he's now got Schumacher behind him. They've both got 3 seconds of penalties, so this is a genuine fight for P10 here, and Schumacher's just been gaining and gaining gradually on the Ferrari driver. So Kryptonite's solitary point is now coming under a bit of threat as well. The medium tyres in theory shouldn't be as good now as the hards, but Schumacher just looks like he has a bit more pace.
Yeah, he does indeed. Schumacher's really starting to gain. The gap between Wilson and Schumacher, I'll point out, was around, well, there was side by side, and I think it was lap 17. Lap 24, they're now 15 seconds apart. So Schumacher's really pushing those tyres, knowing that, you know, he wants that point. Kryptonite's also got a penalty, so he knows now he can fight for the point. So we'll be able to see what Schumacher can do if he's able to get past Kryptonite. I wouldn't see him getting past in this lap. I'd think he'd wait till at least 27 or 28. Because if he gets past Kryptonite down towards turn 12 this lap, then Kryptonite can just pass him again next lap.
And I definitely echo a comment in the chat saying, we need Otis against PC players. Because I tell you something, he disconnected at one point where he lost probably about, I think it was about 2 seconds. But he's had this race completely under control from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, he's got all the capabilities, I think, to really make a good go of it if he did take on the PC players.
Yeah.
That would be something I think a lot of people would love to see. But yeah, again tonight, absolutely, he's looking on course for another pole sprint and feature race domination, really. And it's hard to see at the moment who can stop him. And you can't say Legend didn't try. He got his elbows out on a few occasions and tried to make life very difficult for Otis. But Otis so far has had an answer to everything that's been thrown at him.
He has. Otis has been unstoppable yet again. You know, the guy is, 14, so he's relatively young compared to some of the esports drivers. He's on the pace of these esports drivers, and these are, 4, 5, 6 years older than him. So Otis is definitely one to watch out for many esports teams, because I think he'll make it there one day, no matter what. You know, I know he can do it, and I think everyone knows he can do it, because he's got that pace already, and he's still 4 years off before being able to be allowed in esports. So, you know, he's just now, it's all about just keeping up that dominance and just trying to start proving more and more I can do it. You know, every race he does, he proves more and more that he's got that pace, and he's got the pace with the top guys. Maybe, you know, I don't know what esports team he's in, but maybe they'll buy him a PC one day, or buy him a wheel one day to use on a PC, and possibly we can see him fighting against the likes of Jan Otmir, Lucas Blakely, which is definitely something that I could see Lawrence enjoying, and I could see many esports fanatics enjoying it as well.
Yeah, it'd be quite a sensational story if we see that progression happen over the coming years. And he's definitely on the right path. We've got a couple of fights, and I think we are now starting to see a couple of the medium drivers just start to struggle. I tell you, one gap that's coming down at a rate of knots is the gap between Steph and Frankie for P5. It's coming down very quickly indeed, and I just wonder if Frankie's starting to really struggle with those old medium tyres. We're going to really see now in these closing stages which guys on the medium tyres have been looking after their tyres and which ones haven't, and those that haven't could pay quite a price in these closing laps. So there's still plenty to keep an eye on here, particularly for the likes of Frankie and maybe Jensen as well, who also I think is starting to lose a bit of pace.
Yeah, indeed, that's the last thing that Jensen wants, but you know, they took that risk with the mediums. You know, it'll either pay off, it won't, and it seems that at the moment it's starting to pay off less, but people like Rudy and Smokey are in a better position because they know that the people behind and in front are more so mediums, so you know, they don't really have to worry about direct overtaking from someone else behind. The issue that they've got is the people behind the people that's behind them have got harder tyres and will be looking to pressure them. So yeah, it's all about taking that risk, isn't it? You know, you could take the mediums and be like, right, we'll make it to the end, but you know, at the end of the race, you'll start to lose time completely off the others, which you can see between Legend and Otis. 2 seconds has been gained by Otis in the last 2 laps, but at least Legend knew at the start of the medium stint he had a chance of getting past Otis, which he did. You know, the gap really started to shrunk. I think it was about 2 seconds over the course of 3 laps. So the gap really did shoot down, and then now it's completely shooting up for Otis. 4.5 seconds now as we speak, nearly at that 5-second mark. Smokey's also losing time on Legend. Rudy's losing time on Smokey, and Frankie's also losing time on Rudy. But then we look at Steph. 8/10 now. Steph is behind Frankie, so Steph's tyres are really, really working. It's just unfortunate that the top 5 are so far apart. Otherwise, Steph could have possibly got himself a couple of positions.
Yeah, it's you can just see Frankie and Jensen really losing time now, and Jensen's gonna have double problems because he's got Ian and Skyver right behind him now, and you get a feeling he's gonna be pretty defenseless. Particularly, the only good thing is the main part of the track where you'll lose time with the tyre wear is the opening sector, and that's realistically the hardest part of the track to overtake on.
It really is. But now we're watching Steph coming after Frankie towards turn 1. Can Steph get the move on Frankie? Let's see now. As you go into turn 1, Frankie's going to go to the inside, is he? No, we're 96 behind. Just for now. I think he knows he's going to try and get him dead towards turn 12. Wouldn't be surprised if he did. But you can see now Frankie right. Steph's right behind Frankie. Knowing he's got more pace over that AlphaTauri. And look at the gap. It's just shrinking 2.5 tenths now. Look how close these guys are getting through this first sector. We'll just look at Sky that battling with Kryptonite. Kryptonite's round. He's got no front wing. I think he had a battle with Schumacher, and he's ended up in the wall. P11 now for Kryptonite. Was looking on for a nice easy point. He's now P11. We know front wing. Looking at Ian as well on the back of Jensen. These hards are really coming into work now on these final couple of laps. We're going to watch Steph. Is he able to get the move done on Frankie? Frankie, you can see trying to warm up his tyres. He's just got nothing left in those mediums. And then we can see Steph goes up the inside and he gets the move done, but he breaks very late. Close to a lock up there, but he gets the move done. Sky that, and Ian game past Jensen. Jensen's lost 2 positions in that one straight. Puts Sky's up to P7. Frankie right behind Steph, but I think Steph's got that move done because those hards are just a lot more better than the mediums by far now. Jensen just 2.5 tenths behind Ian. Ian just close behind Sky that, so I think we might see a little battle between those two, but Ian's not going to be too fussed about his position with Sky that because obviously he's got his 6 seconds worth of penalties. But Jake, you can agree these hards are really starting to get into work now, aren't they?
Yeah, and that was the guys that went on the hards knew they'd take a bit of short-term pain, but the long-term gain could be absolutely critical for them, and thus that's the way it's proved. We've got, I wonder, how's Frankie going very narrow, very to the inside on the straight. Has Frankie got a puncture? I think he has.
He has. He's got a puncture. Has he got a puncture? I think he has. Let's have a look.
Yeah,
he has. Yep,
it's
rear left.
rear left.
That is not what he wanted.
We said those mediums are going off, and they've really gone off for Frankie in a horrible way, and he's going to drop out of the points, and it might save Kryptonite, who had that spin. He's trying to carry on with that front wing loss, but he will have 2D closing in on him as well. We've got all sorts going on here at the end, and I just want to keep an eye on Jensen because he might have similar problems on those mediums. We'll be able to get those to the end, and well, look at Otis. I said he gets some long-term gain out of those hards. He's going to win this race comfortably. He's got a 13-second gap, just a few corners left to go for Otis Lawrence. It's been a commanding display, another absolute dominant evening here in the Crossplay Cup, and he takes the win here at COTA by a comfortable margin. And the other drivers on those mediums are just trying to nurse it to the line. Legend and Smokey both really struggling here. I think a lap or two longer, and we're getting quite a few more punctures for some of these guys. Legend is just going to get second. Smokey had that penalty anyway, so he would have got it regardless, but he gets it on the line. Rudy fourth,
Ooh.
Steph. It's a fifth. We've got all sorts going on further behind. 2D getting past Kryptonite. Skyver 6, Ian 7th. Jensen limps over the line and actually grabs 7th off Ian due to penalties. And then it's looking like Schumacher for P9. Frankie with his puncture is desperately trying to nurse it home for a point, and he might just do so.
Let's see, and he does, gets himself a point. Very nice there from Frankie. Has Kryptonite got a puncture or not? No, he hasn't, he's just got no front wing. Kryptonite drawn to the end with no front wing, 2 takes P11, followed by Kryptonite in P12. Wilson, as AI will come oh, sorry, not takes P12, Kryptonite to P13. Then Trust Mabarak, who's currently on the soft, he's probably going to be looking to get the fastest lap. He's going to come home 14th and the last driver to cross the line. And let's see what time he could put on the board. Does he take the fastest lap? Because Amin wasn't able to. But let's see, can Trust do it? Over the line now, Trust takes fastest lap, he does. But that was an amazing race, wasn't it? Absolutely amazing. Full of battles the whole way.
Yeah, the rain kind of stopped at the perfect time, really, because it gave the drivers that conundrum. You know, they had 2 very viable options with the hards and the mediums. We saw really how those 2 strategies played out over the course of a stint, and it was always going to lead to some late drama with them struggling to hang on to the mediums. And yeah, I mean, just summed it up really. Frankie limping across the line with a rear left puncture, taking 10th. That takes a lot of skill and commitment, and it would be easy to just throw in a towel after he got that puncture, but he gets a point for his hard work. But I mean, what can you say about Otis Lawrence that hasn't already been said? Just utter dominant evening for him again, and ends up winning by nearly a pit stop when we were talking at the start of that stint about Legend potentially challenging him.
Yeah, indeed, that was some work from Otis. 17 seconds. That isn't a pit stop, isn't it? Like 20 seconds for a pit stop. So very, very good race from him. Obviously, he takes first in the quali, first in the sprint, and first in the race. So, yet again, another Grand Slam. Puts Otis's win streak up to 2 now. And there's just 3 races to go. I believe if Otis was to win next week, he could actually wrap up the championship there and then. I'm sure it would be possible.
I mean, and that's astonishing, really. You consider there's so many talented drivers in this field, and he's just making it look like a walk in the park. He's literally doing what Max Verstappen has been doing all year. He's just taking the field apart. And I think Legend deserves a lot of credit too tonight, because at times he put Otis under pressure and really made it an interesting battle. And he may not have beaten Otis in the end, but he got 2 second places, and that's to hold off drivers like Smokey and Rudy. He did a super job, and he did. He can take a lot of credit from tonight going forward into the next few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. For me, driver of the day, as much as I want it to be Otis, I've got to give it to Legend, because Otis, it's driver of the day is something normally which you give to a driver who does something special. Otis has done nothing special, he's done what he normally does. But Legend, he's been putting pressure on through quali, through sprint, and through the 50%. He's been putting pressure on Otis, and that is something which not many drivers can do, especially when it's between the consoles, obviously PS and Xbox. So it's something we haven't really seen before between those two, and now we've seen it, and you can see those two really, really close together. I think Legend's definitely the best guy on the PS. Well, it seemed it from that race, and then obviously Otis is the best on the Xbox. So that's going to definitely be the main fight for the championship between those two. Obviously, just say, for example, I don't know, Otis DNF's next race, and Legend gets a Grand Slam. That could also put them on near enough equal points. So, this championship battle's still very there, but I think after round 3 or 4, we'll definitely see who's won it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And you can get some bad luck in there as well. If Otis had been disconnected for a few minutes longer, the race could have turned out very differently. So, there's plenty to play for. And who knows, the track next week, it might be one Otis doesn't particularly get along with. Of course, we don't find out till 24 hours before, so you don't really get that preparation time. So, we'll see. Next week's track could throw up a few surprises.
Indeed, yes. And, well, I'm going to leave it here because that's all from me. We haven't got anyone in the waiting room for an interview, so we're not going to have interviews today. But thanks, Jack, for joining me, and I hope to see you next week.
Yeah, it's been great. A lot of fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see what next week brings.
So, have a good evening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega and Grid Rival, proudly supporting PSGL.